Hello everybody, welcome to the stream. Welcome aboard everybody. We are about ready to start. Welcome aboard everybody. Please excuse the welcome aboard everybody. Ice cream truck in the background. So let's go ahead and get things going. Let's give this a quick light erase. I've already erased most of the pencil marks here, but I'm going to go ahead and just give it a quick once over here, just to prevent any kind of smearing. We don't want any random pencil marks blotching everything up. So let's just go over this lightly with this soft kneaded eraser, and then we'll start coloring things in. Hope everybody's doing good tonight on this wonderful Wednesday evening over here in Arizona. Pretty warm one today. I'm not sure what the exact temperature was, but pretty sure it hit over 100 like it normally does. So I like to keep the scratch paper and test out the colors before I get started, or before I actually put it down onto the artwork. So let's go and start putting this base tone in. Color we are using is YR00. I don't know if you guys can see that or not, but that's the first color I like to use when I'm doing the skin tones. As you can see, I'm using the chisel tip. No particular reason why, I just kind of prefer using the chisel tip whenever possible. So we'll just fill in these areas, leave a little bit of white space so we can keep some lights in there. Just a little bit. We're going to go over that before we're all done. And so looks like the light is coming kind of top ways from the right. At least that's how I did the highlights in the eyes. So let's go ahead and keep them that way. Keep that in mind when you are putting in your strokes. And just be mindful of where the lights go. because you are working basically dark or light to dark. I had it backwards there for a little bit. I started out as an oil painter, and the way I used to oil paint, and I think most oil painters, is dark to light. So I'll occasionally refer back to my oil painting terminology. And don't worry if it looks too like harsh, like there's too much contrast. We'll go back and smooth it out. So here's probably going to be a little bit of shadow, but we'll still leave that light. So the light's coming here, so and I remember this is just the base color. And if it goes on kind of heavy, it looks a little bit too dark, don't worry, because after the paper soaks it in, it's gonna lighten up a little bit. So yeah, don't worry about that too much. I don't know if you guys can hear that music in the background. I got my phone going on with some old school jams. Hopefully YouTube doesn't hear it. I don't want to get, you know, shut down or some kind of violation. In fact, I'm going to turn it down just a little bit, just to make sure this mic doesn't pick it up. So we'll go ahead and fill this part in. Let me turn it down really quick. Okay. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask. I love interacting with anybody that's watching. We're just putting in the base flesh tone using YR00. That's my favorite color for flesh tones to start off with. Now you see I left the space right here. You see I left the space right there. That is for the reflected light that's gonna kind of bounce onto that area. So you don't have to leave it like that, but I like to leave it, and then I'm going to actually put in a different color for the reflected light. I could have done it on the arm here too, but the area is just so small that it's not really worth it to add it in there. So then we'll add in this muscle line here. Let's give me some more reflected light there. So you want to be mindful of the shadows, where the shadows are going to go, and the reflected light. So don't stress out too much though if you mess it, or if you forget where it goes, because we're still kind of in the light color stage. So that's one thing just to keep in mind when you're coloring with markers. Don't color in the whole thing all, all in one solid color. I mean, you can if the color is light enough, but to get the best results, I would recommend leaving a little bit of space where the lights go. Then later on you can smooth it out and fill it in if it's too bright. So right here I'm going to leave a light on the leg. It's going to start out kind of big, but it'll eventually shrink down to a more realistic size by the time we're done. And then we'll just work our way around here. And then it's filling these little areas here. Sometimes it can get a little confusing because you forget what these strokes are and what they're for. These strokes are here actually the stem of this vine that's kind of just twirling around. Okay, so we got our basic lights in. Let's go ahead and, well, actually let's do the face. Face and this other leg here. Now this leg we can go ahead and fill it in all the way because it's going to be mostly in shadow anyways, so you can go ahead and fill that one in all the way. I'm just kind of filling in these little areas where it's a little blotchy, so. Okay, so let's go ahead and put in the colors for the face. By the way, I used the Copics multi-liners to do all the ink work. So usually they're really good about not bleeding. Every once in a while you might get a a stroke or something that kind of bleeds into your colors, but for the most part they work really well. So we're just going around and filling in these main areas, leaving a couple areas where there's some lights. On a smaller size like this, it's a little bit more difficult to get super accurate and detailed. But you can definitely still get enough detail. And then when we're all finished up, we can always go over with some acrylic paint or acrylic white ink and, you know, fill in some of those areas where it needs lights. So now I'm just kind of going the areas where it might need a little bit more shade. You won't get too much shade using the same color, but I still like to go over it just to indicate where my next color is going to go. Here, let's give this another quick fill in. Okay, maybe right here a little bit. Alright, so now that we got our base skin tone in there, let's go ahead and start to put in the shade. So we'll go with YR01. You guys see that? YR01. So we'll just start putting in that shade where you think it might need it. Right here in the abdomen area. And once again, don't worry if the strokes look a little bit harsh or the edges look too hard. So we're going to go over it again with the light color. Smooth things out. We're just getting in that real base shade tone in right now. And my pages are sticking to my finger a little bit because I got a bandage on. I ended up stabbing my pinky finger when I was setting up earlier. I had a real sharp pencil sticking out of my these little holes where the pencils go on my drawing desk, and it stabbed the heck out of my pinky finger. So I might take off the bandage right now if it starts bothering me too much, if it starts sticking to the paper. This part's actually too light, but that's okay. We're gonna fill that in later, so don't be afraid if it looks too light. And it'll indicate some of that knee bone right there. And put a little bit of shadow over here, so it shows a little bit of roundness. Right here too, we'll add some shade. And I don't know if you could tell on the screen now, but it's, even though it's a darker tone, it's already seeping in and you know, getting real light. So we're definitely gonna have to hit it again with the darker color, which is cool. You know, it's like a building up layers. So over here to indicate that roundness. And right here, I like to put in a little bit of tone. And let's not forget about the arm. So let's go ahead and put these deeper tones in the face. Wherever you think it needs it, go ahead and put it in there. We'll fix these cheeks up a little bit too, so it doesn't look so harsh with those lights coming out. And this neck part's gonna be pretty much in shadow, so we'll give it a cast shadow here too, which we'll go over with a darker color. Okay. And let's see, what color do we use for the next tone? Let's try E11. To give that a test. Test marking so we can, you know, be sure that we're putting in the correct tone. And you'll find these earth tones, when they dry, they get a little bit shiny. So don't freak out when, you know, after you're done with your drawing and then you look at it, there's a few shiny areas there. That's just the way the pigment is naturally formed. So you can see we're building up all these tones. And we're still gonna go even deeper with one more darker tone. So not quite out of the woods yet. And then plus we gotta still blend it over. So here we gotta put in some shadow. Okay. So the way that I work, I mean, Don't take all of these tips and techniques to, to gospel or nothing like that. Just this is the way that I work. So I mean, if you want to get results like the way that I draw, I would follow the way that I'm showing you. There's a lot of great artists out there that use different techniques than I do. And I would recommend watching those artists too, and maybe combining some of the stuff that you like, how I do, and then some of the stuff that they do, and then eventually you'll come up with your own technique or style. Okay, so let's put a little bit of my face here. Just in this eye socket area. And this drawing, I started with a pencil sketch. I used a mechanical pencil and then just drew the basic shape of the whole drawing, and then I started refining it, and then I drew poison ivy first with the detail. And then I went ahead and inked poison ivy with the multi-liners, Copic multi-liners. I went ahead and did that first before I detailed Catwoman in pencil, just because if I would have done both of them in detail, I would have smeared the Catwoman while I was working on poison ivy. So that's just something to remember. When you're drawing in general, not necessarily just in Copics, but when you're pencil drawing. And sometimes I'll put a piece of paper over a part that's already drawn, so I don't smear, or won't smear as much. So let us go back to our original color YR00, and it'll just kind of smooth out these tones a little bit. Anywhere you think there's a hard edge that you want to soften out. Go ahead and go over it with this light color. Then we get a little bit of a smoother look to it, especially in the skin. When I'm drawing digitally, even though I have what you call like a painterly style, I'll tend to leave lots of strokes just as they are, so it gives it a that painterly look. But on the skin, I'll try to make it as smooth as I can while still retaining that look that I want. You don't want the skin to come out real blotchy, so. Especially for pinup art where it's going to be showing quite a bit of skin, you want it as smooth as you can probably get it. So You can see now I'm kind of filling in these areas where it's showing too much white. Right here, probably doesn't need that much. I think we went over the leg already, but and then just to tone down these highlights here, we'll go over it again really lightly. I'll do the same thing here. Remember I told you we're gonna knock this down a little bit, so you can achieve that effect just by some quick strokes right there. And this leg, let's go ahead and add some more shadow. Let's smooth this out first. And where did our shadow color go? Here we go. E11. Like I said, this leg's mostly going to be in shadow. That should be okay right there. And now we can actually start adding in some cast shadows. The cast shadows are the shadows that, I don't know if you can see right here, but see how my hand is casting, like the finger right there is casting a shadow. So that'll be usually your darkest shadow on the picture. And let's see if E13 will work on that one. I don't want to get too deep just yet because you know, we're still going to go over with some colored pencil at the end. So let's see how this looks right here. Yeah, that's good. See. So let's put in these cast shadows right here. This neck is going to have a cast shadow from the chin area. And then right here where the hair is falling onto the arm, a little cast shadow there. Speaking of cast shadows, this light is putting a little bit of a cast shadow. So I'm going to have to play around with it a little bit more, you know, until I get the exact setup that works best. And right here I'm just adding a little bit of darkness, so just to make this area stand out a little bit more. We'll blend this part in so it won't be so blotchy. And right here we're going to have some cast shadow from not only the breast area but these her leaf top. So, and in fact we can go ahead and, you know, give those little indications of where the leaves are falling. Same thing in this area here. And if it gets too light, like like I said, after the paper soaks it up, we'll go over with some colored pencil. And then right here it's gonna have a cast shadow from the leg, so let's go ahead and put this in here. Filling that in, and then we'll leave a little bit of reflected light right there. So let's go back to the YR00, and we'll kind of smooth this edge out a little bit. Same thing right here. It doesn't look so, it doesn't look so crazy right there. But you do want to add that, that darkness to show that form, especially in a area of particular interest, which obviously this is. So and right here we add a little bit of deep tone, smooth that out just a tad. Okay. So now we can actually put in that reflected light that I was talking about. So let's put in a light green color, since we got the whole green theme going on. Let's try this YG13. We'll go to our trusty little scrap paper here. I like that color, but it actually might be a little bit deep, a little too deep. So let's go one tone lighter. Let's try this YG23. See how that looks. Ooh. YG23 is dry. Yeah, that sucker's dry. So, plan B. YG13. Let's see how this puppy looks. Looks almost the same as that, don't it? Well, dang it. How about this YG25? All these colors are the exact same. Okay, so then let's not use a greenish color right there. Let's use something that will complement it, but not the same thing. So let's try purpley color. It's like a lavender. We'll try this blue violet 00. I think that should work right there. So like I said, it looks like it's a little bit dark, but it's gonna lighten up. So and in order to make that, if you squint your eyes, you'll see that there's not much of a tonal difference right there. So we're gonna add some dark right here. That will make that pop out a little bit more. So we'll go back to our E13 color, and We'll use a brush tip. Even though I like using the chisel tip, just to change things up a little bit. We can even add a little bit more down here. And you can see it's already bringing that out even more. So we'll go all the way around here. That should be good. It's going to lighten up a little bit too, so it won't be quite as contrasty when it dries up, but it'll be enough. And then we'll go back and smooth it out a little bit more. So okay, so about a little bit right here just to break things up. Here too. We could add some right here at the top, but it's kind of, you know, there's light falling on top of it, so it probably won't be as dark there, so we'll leave that as it is. So let's grab our first color again, YR00, just to blend this out a little bit right here. Let's see what happens here. We'll blend this in. Okay. Let's blend this arm out a little bit. So this YR00 that I use, it's the color that I most often have to refill. So I made sure to refill it before I started this session, this live stream session. That way it doesn't run out on us in the middle of you know, the stream. Okay, so we're pretty much done with the skin. I mean, we'll go back and touch it up a little bit before it's all done. You know, I still want to do some work on the face. For the face, we can actually go ahead and let's do those lips. So for the lips, we can actually use some colored pencil. So let's break out the colored pencils. Let's see what a good color is to use here. Let's try this one. This one looks good right here. I just got that case like about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks. I had my colored pencils in like 3 different smaller cases, and so I got myself that nice big case that holds 120 pencils. And it works great, but I mean, I only have like probably 70 or 80 pencils, so there's still quite a bit of room left. So we'll go ahead and just fill in these lips. You can use your Copic markers for this too, with the brush tip. But it's, you know, it's kind of a small area, so I'll get better results using this colored pencil. So So let's work our way around and leave in that crisp highlight right there. Don't go over it too much, that way you don't mess up that highlight there. And then on the eyes, I like to use this gray color. Pull out the pencils again. Look at this gray color back here that works really good for the shadow on the that goes underneath the eyelid. So we'll go ever so gently on this part here. You might not even be able to see that on the screen, but it has just enough shadow so it, you can tell that it's casting that shadow there. So yeah, okay. And if we want to, we can start adding in some cast shadows from the hair with the pencils, but we'll leave that for a little bit later. Let's go ahead and go back to the markers. And then the hair is orange, or her hair is red, but I used the orange outline here, so we may end up having to tweak that color a little bit. In fact, let's go ahead and do that now. Let's tweak that with one of the multi-liners. We'll use this color multi-liner. It's the lighter brown, the sepia color. So we'll just go over this kind of lightly, just to darken that tone a little bit, so that when we put in our reddish color, it'll help to stand out and it won't blend in as much. In fact, I did that with her glove right here. I don't know if you could tell, but there is a green, which is the same color as this light green, and then I went over it with this brown marker. And that's what gave it kind of that warmish green color. So we won't do every single stroke, mostly around the outside of the hair. See, it looks better right there because it's darker now, where before it was a little bit hard to see. So hopefully you're enjoying this live stream. This is actually a commissioned drawing, pre-commissioned, because I'm attending Phoenix Comic Fest next week, and I reached out to some of my former clients and let them know that if they wanted something drawn for them, we have the option where they can prepay and then pick up their drawing at the event. And so I had a couple of former clients reach out or contact me, and this is one of them. And then I thought it'd be a cool idea to go ahead and put it on my stream, just to show the process. Anyways, I'm glad I did that pre-commission thing because last year I ended up overcommitting myself and took on a little too much work at the event, too many commissions, and so I ended up having to take like about 3 or 4 of them home. And so, they were all great. All my clients, they were all understanding, and I went ahead and, refined their drawings a little bit more than I would have at the event, which is what I'm doing here too. I'm gonna put a little bit extra detail and refinement because you only have a certain amount of time to get the drawings done over there, so they'll still come out good, but they'll just have a looser quality to them. They'll be a little more sketchy, but nothing that I'm not ashamed to show. Just you know what I'm saying. All right, so I think that looks all right there. Don't you think that looks better? All right, so let's go ahead and get the base color for the hair. And we're not gonna quite go this red, but maybe a couple of shades more towards the orangey side. And anyways, we gotta do the lights first, so let's put in the lightest shade of orange that we're gonna use. So in fact, we can use like this yellow red color. Let's see. I think that should work pretty good. YR02. How about YR01? Let's go YR01. Let's see what happens there. This is actually the second skin tone that I used. So let's see how this looks as the light color on the hair. I want to be a little bit careful too because we just inked the hair, so we don't want to smear it with the fresh ink that we just laid down. So on this side, we can go ahead and fill it all in with this orange color. And on this side, we'll leave a couple of white areas for the highlight since the light is coming more this way. Once again, using the chisel tip, but if you like using the brush tip, by all means do so. Going back to what I was saying earlier, I started out using oil paints, traditional oil paints, and I was taught to use the biggest brush possible during the process of my painting. And then at the end, when I'm putting in the details, that's when you use your smaller brushes, for like smaller areas, like for highlights of the eyes and, you know, little smaller details. So I don't know if that's why I use the chisel tip, but you know, that's just something that I think about. One of the random things that really nobody else does. Nobody else thinks about. Or should they? But I digress. So let's go back to... So right here we're going to go ahead and leave a little bit of highlighted area. See, I left a little bit of highlight. It's kind of hard to see right there, but we'll leave that area there. And right there we'll leave a little bit because it's got a high point in the hair. So that's going to bring a highlight to it or catch light. Right here we can go ahead and fill in. Okay. Let's fill in this here. Actually, there's a little spot right there where I left out. Remember I was telling you that sometimes you get confused where those strokes are? So this is actually going to be some skin. See, if I didn't tell nobody, they would have never known. Well, maybe they would have, but... Okay. So now we got that base light color in there. Let's go ahead and add in some deeper tone. Let's try a YR38. Let's see how that looks in the scratch paper. A little too much on the yellow side, so let's try something more towards the red side. How about this YR16? Yeah, that's a little better right there. So we'll work our way around with this orangey color. You know, leaving this light part wherever the hair goes more outwards, because that's going to catch light. So as you can see, it's already getting a little bit of form. Okay, looking pretty good right there. Right there it's going inwards, so got to make sure to put in some darker area right there. And then we'll leave a little bit of light. And we're still going to go back and add in some third tone to it. So hopefully you don't think these are too many colors that I'm using. But I mean, that's just the way I learned how to use these markers. I've seen artists that can get great tones with just two colors. Not quite at that level yet, or expertise. Hopefully one day I can do the same thing, just to save time. The bottom line is, if you get the result that you want, doesn't, it matters a little bit, but not, it's not critical that you do it super fast. It's better to take an extra hour on your drawing and get it the way you want than to try to rush it and then not be happy with the final results. Even though the client might like it, if you personally are, you feel you could have done a little bit better if you would have had a little more time, then go ahead and take that extra bit of time. Especially since you're going to want to put that on your portfolio. You want all your pieces to reflect your best work. Okay, getting there. We's getting there. You can see I went into the title here a little bit, but not a big deal. Not a big deal. So just go ahead and add in that last tone. Let's see what color will it is. Go more towards the red color. I got my Copic markers off to the left of my drawing desk, so I'm kind of hunting around back here. Might end up having to go with a colored pencil because I got lots of reds, but not quite the ones that I want to use. Let's try this R22 and see how it looks. This might be a little too cool. Yeah, it's on a little on the cool side. So be mindful of your color temperatures too. That's another thing to think about. Wait, R18. Yeah, you know what? I think this color will work. I think it's because I have these colors switched in the wrong places, so I couldn't find it. I'm usually pretty organized, almost to a fault. Ask my family. Not quite at a OCD level, but I like my things in a certain place so that I can find them easily. But if you're more comfortable working a little more spontaneous, that's entirely up to you. I just personally don't like searching around for my tools in the middle of a drawing. It tends to disrupt the flow. And I used to be that way with my oil paints too. I used to have them all laid out on my palette the exact same way every single time. That way when I'm reaching for a certain color, I know exactly where it's at. I think most artists are like that with their paints. You know, they keep them all in one exact same area. So let's see. Let's go around our hair with these deep darks. And then we're gonna touch it up with some colored pencil on on the detail areas too. So just a good little bit of extra detail and depth to it. When you're doing client work, they'll tend to appreciate that. They might not notice it right away, or tell exactly what it is, but they can definitely tell that there's a little bit of extra something that you put in that makes it stand out just that little bit more. So it's good to take that extra step. I think we're good with the deep colors there. Let's move a little bit right here. Okay. So we can go over it with the lightest color that we use, which is the YR01. And just blend in some of those colors again. Nothing too crazy, we don't got to go over the whole thing, but just to smooth out some of these strokes just a tad. Bring a little bit of unity. Sometimes when you don't have the right color that you want, you can kind of combine colors to get at least something similar. Kind of like how I did with these warm greens right here. I didn't have a warm green color, so I used that lighter cool green color, and then I went over it with that warm sepia color, and it kind of created that illusion of a warm green, like an olive type of green. And I might end up doing that too with this leaf outfit here, her top and her bikini bottom. So alright, so let's go ahead and put in some colored pencil just to make that hair stand out just a tad more. I mean, it probably looks okay as it is. I've got I'm looking at the replay here on my iPad, and you know, the screen definitely doesn't show the contrast and vibrancy that it's in real life. So it would look good as it is, and you know, I'm sure most people would be happy with it if they took it that way, but since I know it can be better, let's go ahead and do that. So let's grab a warm, like a burnt sienna color, and I think this color is gonna work out pretty nice. So let's try out this color. Let's see what's here. Yeah, let's try out this color. It's more like a burnt orange. What is that color called? It doesn't say. But it looks cool, so let's try it out. Let's try it on our trusted scratch paper. Yeah, I think that's gonna work out good. So actually, let me go ahead and sharpen it. That way we can get some nice detail in there. So I keep my trash can handy next to me on the right side of my drawing desk. So that's one thing to remember too, is keep your tools handy, you know, during your drawing sessions. You know, even if you're not filming or doing live streams, it's just better to have everything close to you. You know, whatever your, even your drinks or your snacks or whatever that you like to do while you're drawing. That way it doesn't disrupt the flow, you know. You might be in a good zone and then all of a sudden stop because you have to go get your trash can or your sharpener somewhere that you left in a different part of your studio. Or your bottle of water is way across the other side of the room. Just small stuff like that. It's best to have everything nearby. I'm rambling, of course, but you know, just little things to consider. So right now I'm putting in these little deep darks that are not super noticeable, but when I'm done with the whole thing, it definitely will be. Just in the darkest parts of the hair. And you can even go outside of those areas and, you know, indicate a couple of little strokes of hair. So we're just about done with the hair. And one thing to keep in mind too is when you want these lighter areas to stand out more, you know, go ahead and deepen the area next to it, and that'll bring out that little light part even more. See, for instance, here. See how that's coming out a little bit more right there? It's because I put some dark next to it. And we'll just work around the parts that we may have missed. Right here's a good spot to put in a couple of strand indications right there. Right there, yeah. Put a couple right here too, just so it's not that big harsh white area right there. Okay, and of course the harder pressure you put, the deeper the tone will be. So that hair looks pretty good right there. We got these leaves going on, so let's put in some cast shadows. And so let's get a little bit darker than this color right here on this pencil. So pull out our pencil case again, and let's see which of these pencils is a little bit more dark than this one. This one is too, but that's a little bit more towards the cool side. So let's go with this one then. Yeah, this color will work good. And since we made that test piece, we'll put it right next to it to see how it'll look compared to that. And that should work pretty good. I should probably sharpen it a little bit too, so let me pull out the trusty sharpener. Just a little bit, just to give us a little bit more control. And the cast shadow is going to go like under here. By the way, you can also do this with your Copic markers. I just happen to have the pencils out handy, so that's why I'm using colored pencil here. And then right here too, just to give it an indication of it kind of sticking out a little bit. We don't have to show it as much. Okay, I think that's good right there. Let me put these pencils back so that I know where to look for them the next time. And then we can go ahead and let's paint in these leaves. Let me get a drink of water first. Actually, it's a drink of iced tea. Okay, so let's go ahead and put in the colors for these leaves. And we'll see if we got a warm green color here. So let's try this YG25. That looks pretty warm. Should be pretty good right there. Go ahead and just fill these in. We don't have to put a whole bunch of detail into these leaves, you know, they're kind of just there. I mean, it's the viewer is going to know what they are, so you don't have to go crazy with the shading and the lights on these, so we can pretty much keep them flat. Right here. Okay, so that's good right there with those ivy leaves. And we can keep the same color and use it on this big leaf here. but this will actually turn out to be the light, and then we'll add a little bit of shade on this plant or flower, or I don't think it's a flower, more like some kind of plant. Just fill it in. Yeah, that's pretty good right there. So let's go ahead and add in a deeper green color. This one should work pretty good. A YG67. Let's test it out here. That should be pretty good. On these like accessories and stuff, like leaves, or if she was carrying a weapon, or you know, something that's more of an accessory, you don't have to get too crazy with the detail, just enough to indicate the form and some basic light and shadow. Because if you get too detailed, it can tend to you know, detract from the main character. So that's something to think about when you're filling in the accessories. Don't overdo it. You know, just make sure you do it enough so that you can tell that there's light and shadow going on, but not so much that it's gonna distract from your focal point. See how we got that light and shadow right there? That's really all we need, and we don't even have to blend it. And this little center area, we'll just fill that in real quick with like an orange color. Where is all my orange colors now? Like this one. This one looks pretty good. We'll just go ahead and pop that sucker in there. Alright, so we're making some pretty good progress here. I'm gonna go ahead and fill these in, these line marks, with that sepia tone. That way it stands out a little more. So it's gonna match the color of the glove, how that looks. So let's go ahead and fill those in now. Rather than later, you know, in case we fill it in and they kind of blend in a little too much. So I'm using this sepia color, size 0.3. These will take a little bit, but not too long. See, if it was digital, I could just select all these areas and fill it into whatever color I want, and if I still didn't like it, then I could do it all over again. But working in traditional media like this, you know, sometimes you got to improvise. And of course we could have left it, you know, that same light green color that that is right here. But it's one of those things you see as an artist that, it can be better. So if you can make it better, then you should make it better. And I don't know how much you can actually see what I'm doing on the screen, like how much detail it's showing. I know the color's a little bit washed out, but trust me, it's definitely making a difference. And I'm not really going over every single little stroke that I did, just kind of going over it. I'm sure if we looked at it real close up, you'll see a lot of blank areas that I didn't cover, but for the most part, it's covering the light green tone. And then, like I said, it starts out pretty dark, but after a few seconds, the paper soaks it in and lightens it up. So don't be afraid if it looks too harsh when you first put that color in and it looks too dark. It's gonna get lighter. Especially on some of those uncoated papers, that'll really sink in, and you'll lose a lot of the vibrancy too. But you got to be careful too when you're using those papers that are really slick and shiny. Markers will tend to not work as well because they're kind of just sitting on top of that coating, and they won't blend as well, and they'll end up looking kind of streaky. So keep that in mind if you're planning on using that type of paper. In fact, I've had commissions where they've given me blank covers, and the paper that was on that they used for the blank cover, it was that slick surface, and you got a lot of streakiness going on. And so it makes it a little more difficult to work. I actually haven't seen one of those covers in a while, so maybe the company's caught on, or they got lots of complaints, and they started using better paper, like the one that I'm working with right now. This is a good paper to use. And these deep tones really work well when you got these cast shadows going on. Helps to separate it just a little bit more than when I just had those green tones. So we're getting there. We're getting there. We'll probably only get to finish up the poison ivy tonight, but that's all right. This way we don't rush things and then, kind of make the Catwoman sloppy. So it's better to take a little bit more extra time, like I was saying before, and that way it'll come out nicer. Which is the reason I'm going over these green strokes. And I was actually debating on when I first put on this green pen. I hope it's deep enough so you can tell, you know, that there's individual leaves, and it probably is, but after it, you know, you see it all laid out, you can notice that, yeah, it's probably better if you go with a little bit deeper color, a deeper tone. So let's go and do that now. And that should be pretty good right there. Actually looks kind of cool like that. Maybe we should leave it and just call it the, what is it? The light poison ivy? Nah. Let's fill that in. So we're gonna go with this YG11 color. YG11. And this is, we did this part first. We know that the ink's already dry, so we don't gotta worry about, you know, being too careful and having it smear. So on these lights, you don't want to use any white. This will be our light tone right here. You know how I use the white for the skins as the highlight and in the hair. On the sleeve area here, you just want to use the green, because white will look too harsh. So we'll just fill in as much as we can with this light warm green color. You'll notice I'm using the brush, even though I told you that I like using the chisel tip. But what can you do? Let's go ahead and do that bottom part. So yeah, I like this green color right here. It's, you know, I think it's gonna make a good light tone to the leaves. I think we'll go ahead and use it for the glove part too. Now since we got this leaf right here, we might run into a little issue where it blends in too much, so you might not notice that leaf. And that's not too bad right now. But if you squint your eyes, it does, you know, there's not a whole lot of contrast there. So we'll add some darks here to help make that leaf stand out more. So that's a general rule, which I'm sure that you know, if you need to make something look light, put something dark next to it. If you want to make something look lighter, put something darker next to it. All right. Let me get another drink of water. It's actually not too bad in my studio today. Sometimes it's pretty warm. I think I just got the the room in the house that has the least insulation, so this room tends to get pretty warm in the summertime, and then in the wintertime it's really cold. So I use a spare bedroom in the house for my art studio. Okay, so let's use this dark warm green, which is YG63. And then we'll just kind of add in these little shadow areas on the bottom of the leaves. Just working our way around. You don't want to go too much with the darks because you don't want to kill all those nice lights that you have going on, but you do want to put enough to indicate that there's like cast shadows and also a little form shadow, so it's kind of acting as a 2-in-1 shadow, if that makes sense. Maybe in this area you can make it a little darker because it's on this side of the light, and on the bottom, you know, you want to show that round form too, so maybe add a little bit extra light or shadow here at this part. And you can see I'm just pretty much just putting in one quick stroke and not going over and over and over. So right here we'll do the same thing. Just put in one quick stroke and leaving it there. It looks all right. And let's go ahead and put in some of these form shadows here on the glove. So like I said, we're going to put that dark next to this leaf so that it stands out more, so we'll do that now. We're going to go even a little bit more dark, but we'll put in the base shadow here. The fingers are actually going downward, so that'll be more in shadow. Same thing with this part of the finger there. Okay. And we don't really have to blend it in. So let's go ahead and do that deep tone with colored pencil, just because it's kind of a smaller area, and I think we'll have better results if we use the colored pencil. So I know there's some people out there say, hey, if this is a marker drawing, then just use markers. I say use whatever tool is necessary to get the job done. So don't let anybody tell you that you have to stick to one medium the whole way through. I mean, you're trying to make the best art possible, so do whatever it takes to accomplish that. And I'm sharpening this pencil a tad. And you can't see me, but I blow on the pencil sharpener when I'm done sharpening the pencil, and no matter how much I try or how softly I blow it out, the shavings, they always end up mostly on the carpet instead of the trash container. So we'll just color in these tones, make them a little bit deeper. And see how that made that leaf kind of stand out just a little bit more? I hope it did. I'm gonna put in these little rolls, give them a little bit of depth too. And then right here where the shadow part of the fingers are, the hand, just a little bit. And then we'll put in a couple here, just where you think it needs it. You don't got to do them to every single one. Just the ones that you think it might help make it stand out a little more. Same thing with the bottom. Okay, so it's looking pretty good. I'm going to smooth out some of these tones on the skin before we wrap things up for the evening. Put away this pencil. Now, where did I have it? Where it is. The pencils I use are, it's not just one brand, but most of them are polychromos. I have some Derwent's Color Soft. A couple of Prismacolors, not maybe just like 2 or 3. And then the rest are those woodless ones, those Progresso pencils that I was using at the start. Those actually work really well. So I kind of wish I would have purchased a large set to begin with, but I didn't know how much I was gonna actually use colored pencils. So what I end up doing is just whenever I'm at the art store, I'll pick up an extra pencil or two, you know, whatever color looks cool. And then I have a list on my phone of the colors that I have, so I don't buy duplicate colors. Let's fill this little area here. And then we actually are going to use the colored pencils here to put in some cast shadows before we wrap it up. So it's looking pretty good, but one thing that I'm noticing is I want this hair just to stand out just a little bit more, so I'm going to go over that with my dark sepia color. Don't know what color it actually is. Let's see, it doesn't say, but it's the dark version of that sepia color I was using. It's the same one I used on the skin outlines. So let's use that here. Just to make it separate itself just a little bit. So like I said, it's probably something that most people would not even notice or consider, but it's one of those artist things that kind of bothers you if you leave it, so it's better to just go ahead and take care of it. Touch it up there. And this part doesn't need it because it's, you know, next to a light area, so there, that's good right there. Just a tatter here. Right when I say that's it, I keep going, huh? Okay, I think we're good to go now. So let us grab those colored pencils, and then we'll put a little bit of cast shadows there. And which pencil looks good? I think I normally like to use this one. Let's go ahead and test out that color. A little on the cool side, and by cool I mean it's more towards, it's a brown color, but it's towards the greenish side. So I don't know if I'm gonna end up using the one with the reddish tone. See, this one's on the warm side. Sometimes it's not easy to tell unless you put them next to each other. They're both browns and similar value. You know, this one's a little bit lighter, but they're two browns. This one's on the reddish side, so that makes it a warm brown. This is towards the green side, so that makes it a cool brown. And after all that, I still didn't answer my question. Which one am I going to use? Let's go with this red brown, which is the same color we use for the dark tones on the hair. So looks like it's working out pretty well. We'll just touch up the areas that needs it. around his eyes area. And the eye sockets. And this little cast shadow underneath her nose. A little bit here to give it a little depth. Depth and warmth. And using very light pressure to bring in that area. Just a little bit here to indicate some roundness. Make sure you leave that little space right there for a reflected light. Okay, and then we can actually deepen the tone on this cast shadow here. Just to make it stand out just a little bit more. All right. So what do we got left? I'm gonna darken this upper lip just a tad. So we'll use our dark greenish color. The pencils again. Sorry to keep putting them in front of the camera, but I can't see on the right side of my desk because it's kind of dark there. So this is a warm green, but it can also make a pretty deep color. Yeah, that's good right there. So let's use this warm green for the upper portion of the lip. And what that does also is it helps bring out that highlight even a little bit more. So just giving it that indication of a little bit more shade. We can even put just a little bit right here in this bottom lip. And I don't even know if it's that noticeable on the screen because it's very subtle, but you can tell that there's a little bit more tone right there. So okay, I think that's gonna wrap it up. Let me put just a little bit more cast shadow on the skin using this deep red color, red brown, just a little bit right here. Where those cast shadows would go. You'll find that when I say I'm gonna wrap things up, I end up drawing a little bit more. So right now I'm just putting in little details here and there where it'll help bring out these like muscle tones and these shadow areas. And you can actually, you know, keep going and keep going, and so at some point you do have to stop and wrap things up. But for this one we'll put just a couple of more, maybe right here where it's It's falling on the side of her skin here. So yeah, I think we're good with the poison ivy. And then tomorrow I'm gonna do Catwoman, but I will probably do that on my Instagram live. So if you follow me on Instagram, please tune in. So we'll go ahead and call it evening. And thank you so much for watching. And we'll see you next week. I'm not going to be doing a live stream on my YouTube because I'll be getting ready for Phoenix Comic Fest, but I will 2 weeks from now. So till then, thank you. Have a good night.